following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Finally.
We've come back to the airwaves.
We're back on the airwaves, finally, and welcome to No Credentials Required, where you don't need a press pass to talk sports. We are powered by Belly Up Sports in association with Godzilla Media. To my right is a man who is definitely getting his 5% of the share of the profits from this particular program. Unfortunately, we're not profitable right now. Dustin Henry. Dustin, how we doing?
I'm doing all right. It's all right. It's about long-term investment, long-term. We're going to grow this over time. The followers will increase, and then next thing you know, the YouTube people will come a knocking to monetize videos. Who knows? Men can dream, right? They can. We can dream.
That is true. That is true.
Thrilled to be here on this rainy night, though. Rainy night, and
yes, it is a rainy night. Eddie Rabbit loves a rainy night. I particularly don't, but especially when it's like god awful humid outside in New York. But we're gonna get into things in just a moment. I'm sorry for the delay. I had some technical difficulties. One of my mics decided to my Blue Yeti mic decided to die on me, so we're gonna do some testing after the show. Make sure everything's going. But I got my blue snowball. As my backup. So we're getting going. We're going to do some really cool things tonight. But before we go on, just want to remind you about our social media channels, which are right down here. Twitter, Instagram, and the scarcely used TikTok. It's at NoCredsREQ. Facebook.com/NoCredsREQ. YouTube.com/at NoCredsREQ. And if you would, whether you're watching on replay or you're watching live, we just want to remind you to please smash that like button. Smash responsibly. And if you're on YouTube, we're on a rally to get to 500. We're going to try to get to 500 subscribers because I guess what happens is that now they've changed the monetization system. So now if you have 500 followers, or if you have 500 subscribers and you have a certain amount of watch time, you can be monetized. So we're on a mission to get 500 subscribers. So if you wouldn't mind subscribing to YouTube, we'd appreciate it.
Yeah, let's do this. We can do it together.
That's right. That's what we appreciate about you, our subscribers. Just wanted you to subscribe. On the podcast side, you can subscribe on a myriad. Of podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Google Play, iHeartMedia. Tune in wherever you podcast. Subscribe. Also, leave a rating and a review. 5 stars is the preferred amount of stars for the rating, and if you review it, we might even read it on the air. And because this is a viewer engaged show, we encourage our viewers to engage with us during the show as we live stream. Dustin, I know it's only been a couple days, but I know you missed that sound already, so we're going to play that sound. We're going to that beautiful, beautiful sound.
Lay it on me.
That's right, folks. Your algorithmic engagement comments, leave them during the show or leave them during replay. We want to hear from you as we stream tonight. So we're going to go off the beaten path a little bit, because it's not quite NFL season yet. We're kind of in the dog days of summer. Baseball's the only thing going on, and as much as we love baseball, we like baseball, but we just want to do something a little bit different during the summer. One thing we're gonna do is movie reviews, and we're gonna do a thing called No Ticket Required. I have a bumper for this. I have an element for this. So give me a second. I'll give you the element for No Ticket Required. So we're gonna review the movie Air. I watched it last night. I'm pretty sure Dustin had watched it sometime last night as well. We're gonna review it, but first, as soon as it processes in our system here, we're going to do our element for No Ticket Required. So, it's up. So here we go.
Nicely done. It takes
Thank
me
you.
back.
Thank you.
Back
Thank you.
to the old newsreels and serials. No, I'm joking.
On the talkies, see?
Yeah.
So we're gonna review the movie Air. Both of us have been breathlessly anticipating the this particular ready to watch this movie. We're getting ready to watch this movie. It was in the theaters. It's now on Amazon Prime. So if you have an Amazon Prime subscription, you can go ahead and watch it. I watched it last night, and we'll go through it. But Dustin, I want to get your thoughts about this movie. What did you think of this movie? What were some give your general impressions before we really go deep into this?
All right, general impressions. I would say, and I'll keep it. You know, I've got some stuff in my notes here because I thought I could go off the dome, but I was like, no, I got to write down some key stuff. But generally, I did enjoy this movie, even though at certain times I was like, okay, I know what it's trying to do, at least in my opinion and my interpretation. I know what it's trying to do. I know it's trying to get me to take the bait here, but I'll tell you, I took the bait, and it's also nostalgia is a powerful vehicle, and I also am realizing that I have I would say, somewhat recent fascination with all things basketball from the bygone era. Pretty much, you know, I mean, I'm not breaking down George Mikan film, but you know, if there's anything,
if it still exists.
yeah, but if there's anything about like the Dream Team from the '90s, or Magic versus Bird, or you know, obviously Jordan's Rise, or the Bad Boys in Detroit, all that stuff, I'm watching it.
Yeah.
So this movie caught me right at that time, and overall, I think I would have enjoyed it had I gone to the theater. But I think part of the reason that I might have enjoyed this movie so much is that I got to watch it from the comfort of my own home,
Yeah.
using a nice Amazon Prime subscription. It was a nice way to spend a Sunday night. Didn't blow me away, but also I didn't feel like I wasted my time queuing it up.
Yeah, I enjoyed this movie a lot. My dad had actually watched it, which really surprised me because he's not a basketball fan at all. He's football. He's big. He loves football season. He loves baseball season, and that's about it.
Oh, okay.
That's about it. He doesn't like basketball. He tolerated it in his home when we watched the Bulls era in the early '90s and the mid '90s. He tolerated it when we had friends over. We watched the games. We watched the Bulls win those had those 2 3-peats, that dynasty. He went up tolerating it, but he said he enjoyed it a lot too. He's a big fan. He says it was a really good drama. Like you mentioned, Dustin, the nostalgia. I love the soundtrack to this movie.
Me too.
It kind of took a page from Cobra Kai. If you haven't watched Cobra Kai, especially the first season, where they have all those throwbacks to the arcade and to the music that Johnny Lawrence still listens to. But it kind of threw me back because I was born. I was alive in that era. I was relatively sentient in that era.
Yeah.
as a 6 and 7 year old. In fact, it's funny that the proposal that Sonny had put together, it was proposed on August 19th, 1984. It was one day before my 7th birthday.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So it's just really funny that his proposal came the day before my 7th birthday.
Mhm.
So I will note this though. There were some tremendous acting performances. I'll give 2.
Yeah.
It's not the 2. It's one you might expect, and one you're like, oh, really? Okay. So Viola Davis as Dolores Jordan.
Yes.
She was excellent, and I
Yes.
don't know if Air is eligible for, has already gone through this year's Oscar consideration. I'm not sure if it has because it was released in March or April.
Okay.
But
Yes.
if
That's kind of a weird time, but based on the timing, I would believe that it would be eligible for this year's Oscars. Not 100%.
Okay.
Not 100% sure on that, but I know that there's like a cutoff. There is like a spillover, but I think think because the Oscars are taking place in March now. So but I'm trying to remember. I think Air might have come out after last year's ceremony, but I'm not 100%.
Okay. So the submission deadline for the 2024 Oscars is November 18th, 2023. So it's eligible for this coming year for the Oscars. And there are a couple of performances that I think should get consideration. Viola Davis as Dolores Jordan. Chef's kiss.
Yeah, she was very good.
She was excellent.
And if I have this written down, and this was my quick note about her performance, but it also, if her portrayal of Dolores Jordan was accurate, which I don't know. Sometimes with these movies they take a little artistic license. But if this portrayal is accurate at all, then I have Mrs. Jordan was the real deal. And I wanted to put a couple other words in there, but I knew that this was a family show, so
this is a family show.
yeah, I wasn't going to do that. But I just have to piggyback a little bit off of what you said about the soundtrack. I loved the soundtrack. Music was a key part in this movie. But the thing that really took me there in the beginning and kind of sucked me into the movie right from the start was that montage where they used Money for Nothing.
Yep.
And they showed
Dire
all
Straits.
the pictures, and they showed, yes. Well, first of all, I, as a guitar player, somewhat, I love Mark Knopfler, and big shouts to him for always using a Strat. It's one of my favorite guitars to play. I'm a Fender guy, but he is amazing. So that always is going to get me. But that montage that they did from, showing the shots of like the old VHS tapes and the TVs that now I'm just a bit younger than you, and I was born in 83, but that doesn't mean that I didn't see TVs or things like that. Because especially growing up, we didn't have a lot of money, so a lot of the stuff that we had was not like, I was playing the NES when I was in high school because
Snowman, welcome.
I was playing it. Hey, Snowman, nice to have you here. I was playing the NES when I was in junior high and early high school because I couldn't afford any of the newer systems and stuff. But you know what? I was happy. So to see those VHS tapes and the not trying to get political here, but to see like the shots of Reagan, and it just took you back right away. And they did like a great job of summing up the era and taking you back to the time. And it pulled me right in. That along with the obvious care that was taken to use cars that were true to the time, or the old 7-Eleven logos. It made me, when
Mr. T cereal.
Yes, the Mr. T cereal. They just did a great job of evoking, and I think they did it purposefully. They were targeting people in my age range and further back, and it worked for both of us. I think it was safe to say it worked for both of us.
I will say in the opening credits, there was kind of a blur. They kind of blurred the lines between what was happening in that era and to what was being filmed in the offices. I couldn't tell for a minute if that was actually the Nike office or if it was just the movie set. They made it look they made the opening credits look that realistic.
Yeah.
Which I give full credit to the videographers and the editors for that.
Yeah, and it's nice too. I think they also, the way they shot it and everything in the set design, they made that Nike building look dirgy. They made it look second class compared to the Adidas building and the Converse building as well, because I had forgotten how big Converse was. Adidas, I remembered because they had the whole thing with Run DMC and the track suits. I knew
my Adidas.
Yeah, I knew how big Adidas was back in the day. But Converse, I had forgotten about. Converse, the fact that Larry Bird and Magic Johnson were running around in Converse shoes,
and Dr. J,
yeah, they had the three biggest people in the NBA at the time. But yeah, I just can't picture them running around in like, Chuck Taylors on the basketball court, basically,
Yeah. I mentioned Viola Davis. I think she should be considered for Best Supporting Actress or Best Actress, period.
Mhm.
The other Oscar consideration I would give Jason Bateman.
Oh yeah,
he was excellent.
He was very
as
good.
Rob Strasser. I would also give a nod to Chris Messina as David Falk. He was
Yeah.
him playing David Falk was incredible. What a great performance that was.
Yeah.
I love the lines like, yeah, I'm paraphrasing here. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna be dining alone, but when I sell my company for $100 million, I'll be dining alone, but I'll sell $100 million.
Yes.
I need to find out at the end of the movie that he sold his company for $100 million. So.
Yep. That was because I knew some of this stuff, but not a lot of it. And I will say I'll give a couple special shouts out to some performances as well. Jason Bateman, he did a good job, and I will cop to the fact that I'm not always the biggest fan of Jason Bateman, but in this movie I rooted hard for his character, so that just speaks to me the job that he did, because I'm not always his biggest fan. But it was, I'll say it, and it's more nostalgia, and but it was nice to see Chris Tucker in a movie again.
Yeah, he was excellent too.
Yeah, it had been a long time since I had seen Chris Tucker, and it just, it made me remember, oh yeah, I really did like Rush Hour, and I liked, his performance in that Fifth Element, and I just started reminiscing, and I'm like, man, it's been a while since I've seen Chris Tucker in a movie, and I'm glad he's here. I'm glad he's here.
Yeah.
And then I got to say it, I have it written down. The chemistry between Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, it's still there. Whether there's a lot of people that hate on Ben Affleck, and I am not one of these people. His performance as Batfleck, not my favorite. I do, however, think that Ben Affleck is a talented director, and I think in the right roles, he has had some good performances. And maybe it's my nostalgia for the movie Dogma, one of the last times I truly enjoyed the two of them together. Matt Damon has one of my favorite lines in a movie, period. In that movie Dogma, he's playing Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. For people that don't know, they play two angels in that movie. And Matt Damon says the line, he's like human, because he's the angel of death. He's Bartleby, and he says extermination of human life is one of the most physically exhausting activities you can engage in. And then there's a pause, and he goes, next to soccer. So that line always got me. But it was nice. It was nice to see them again. And we know about their friendship. We saw it in Good Will Hunting. We saw it in, I saw it in Dogma. I'm not sure how many other people watched Dogma, but shout out to all the View Askewniverse fans out there. But it was nice to see them together again. And I thought that this movie had just the right amount of Ben Affleck. Phil Knight was not a central character in this movie, and he shouldn't have been.
No,
but he was there when he needed to be. And I guess they reasonably pulled off Phil Knight's hair once I saw the shot at the end of the movie. But Matt Damon, he's the type of person I never realize how big of a fan of him I am until I see him in something. And he's the classic example to me. He just knows how to do the job. He's a good actor, and if he's in something, I'll probably find an excuse to see it.
So Ben Affleck, this is my first time seeing a Ben Affleck directed movie, and he did pretty good. So we have a comment from Cold Iron. I haven't seen Air. We won't give too many spoilers. We're just kind of doing a review. We won't give too many spoilers because it's based on a true story.
Yeah.
It's based on a true story. So we all know, from what we saw in The Last Dance about how Michael became part of Nike and that Adidas was courting him, Converse was courting him, and the fact that Sonny had mentioned to Mrs. Jordan that Converse is going to tell you one thing, Adidas is going to tell you one thing. I found that Adidas was seen when they're in Germany, and they're meeting with the directors of Adidas, and of course, if you know history, yes, Adolf Dassler was part of the Hitler Youth. Doesn't mean you shouldn't wear Adidas. You can wear whatever you want. I don't really care. But he knew Sonny Vaccaro knew exactly what was going to be what he's going to be told. What Jordan and his family was going to be told. And it was funny, the accents. It's like, so who's in charge around here? Well, it's a collaborative effort. No, I'm in charge until certain time. Oh, it's more of a collaborative effort. It's very in a very matter of fact German way.
Yes, and that was one of the signals to me that I knew this movie had me. Is that when everything played out exactly how Sonny Vaccaro, who, in my opinion, this movie is centered around Sonny Vaccaro. You're supposed to root for him. Obviously, the other two at Nike that had the big role in it, and ultimately, you do have to tip your hat to Phil Knight for ultimately deciding to take the risk as well and handle the board, which couldn't have been easy, but this movie centers around Sonny Vaccaro, and when everything worked out exactly as he had foreseen, to quote the Emperor here, I was like, in my mind, I was like, yes. Even though, like you said, we know the outcome, but the movie didn't get me that much. There wasn't any part of me that didn't think he was going to sign.
I will say, I don't mean to interrupt you while you're on a roll here, but there was that kind of little flip with at the end, where Mrs. Jordan says, "Yeah, we're going to sign, but Michael wants 5% share of every single shoe that is sold."
Yeah,
which I thought was a stroke of genius on her part.
Yeah, well, because she took what they said in that speech and used it. She didn't use it against them. I wouldn't say it wasn't like totally malicious, but I think it was her way of saying, put your money where your mouth is. You said you're going to market my son as a person, and here's what you have to pony up to do that.
Yep.
But that I didn't know, and the amount of revenue that he got from the shoes is staggering.
And he still makes $400 million a year.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
He doesn't need to do anything. And the man just sold the Hornets. He's fine.
Yeah, he just sold the Hornets for roughly $3 billion, and he's still with the organization, but as a minority owner, not the fact that he's African American, but the fact that his share is not as it's a minority stake. So I'm looking at IMDb, and there's a fun facts about this. So Viola Davis and Julius Tenen, who plays James Jordan, God rest his soul, they're married in real life.
Oh, wow. Okay. I did not know that.
Yep.
I did not know that thing.
And it says, I'm also quoting here from IMDb. It says, though Michael Jordan was not directly involved in the film, Ben Affleck consulted him numerous times to get details on how to accurately portray the story, which is really nice. Yep. According to Affleck, Jordan's only two requests were that Viola Davis play his mother.
Okay.
And that his longtime friend Howard White be included in the film. Affleck also always wanted to work with Chris Tucker, so he was cast as White. Tucker was also friends with White, and Affleck gave him a little bit of flexibility for his performance. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's why I say, there's a lot of hate on Ben Affleck out there, and have I always loved everything he's ever done? No, but as a director, I have largely liked most of what he's done. He directed Gone Baby Gone. I remember
Mhm.
liking that movie. He directed, if memory serves, The Town. I really liked The Town because Ben
Mhm.
Affleck was playing a character that is true to him. He was a guy from Southie in Boston
Yep.
robbing banks. That's right in Ben Affleck's
He
pocket,
also
you
di- he also
know.
direct, he also directed Argo.
Yes, Argo was another which I enjoyed Argo, and now you can put Air up in another movie that I enjoyed. Ben Affleck, the way that he's going about directing movies reminds me kind of Ron Howard.
Mhm.
Is Ron Howard artsy? No.
No.
Does he try to make a lot of statements with his movies? Largely not. But if you go and you watch a Ron Howard movie, are you going to have a good time? I'd say 90% of the time, yes. One of the movies I still love, Cinderella Man. If you haven't seen Cinderella Man, Ryan, that's another movie we should review for
Mhm.
this show.
It does have it does center around boxing.
Yes, the story of James Braddock. I mean, it's a good one. It's a good one. But Ben Affleck, he's rapidly he's becoming that same sort of director to me. He knows how to do the job. A Ben Affleck directed movie is most likely going to be a pretty good ride. And the trivia that you just laid out, at least it clearly shows that he cared about the source material and he cared enough to reach out to the people that were there, and he also cared enough to do his research.
Mhm.
So you got to respect him. You got to respect him for that. And let's see. I'm trying to. There was something else I
The,
was going to say. Oh, I
the,
didn't realize George Raveling had a pivotal role in kind of setting up the meeting and
mhm.
getting kind of
And,
bridging the gap.
and the fact that he owns the original manuscript of the "I Have a Dream" speech,
Yeah,
and he
yeah,
hasn't sold it yet.
yeah, yeah.
It's just as funny.
Yeah. That's this movie had a lot of little things, and I think it was great because there are a lot of people that know bits and pieces of this story, or they might feel like they know the whole thing, but this movie covered a lot of things that you didn't realize. Um, and I'm almost ashamed to say it, but the whole the whole actually designing of the shoe, that was
Mhm.
like a part that I almost forgot about. I'm like, these guys got to get their presentations together. They got to make it happen. And then all of a sudden they go down and they're like, make me a shoe. And I'm like, oh yeah, they actually
Yeah,
have to make the prototype.
yeah, right.
So, and I thought honorable mention to the gentleman that played Peter. I thought he did a good job.
Matthew Marr. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he did a pretty good job of you know, maybe and I don't know much about the real person, but it sounds like he may have been a touch eccentric, and I
Sounds like
think
it. Yeah.
I think Matthew Marr did a good job of capturing that, if
I
that
would have
was
to think.
true.
I have to think most shoe designers are kind of out of the a little bit out of the way a little.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, I mean, maybe. I mean, they say the same thing about they say the same thing about podcasters too. So
Yeah.
you gotta
Yeah.
be a special breed to
Yeah.
want to be a podcaster.
Yeah.
Before we go to our first commercial break, and actually we're gonna wrap up this edition of the first edition actually of No Ticket Required. Let's play that element again. I like that.
Yeah.
So let's go to the comment section before we go to our first commercial break. Snowman says, Air is the movie of the year and of a lifetime. Uh, Great movie. I
Mhm.
don't watch movies too much anymore. I need to get back into
Yeah.
watching movies on a regular basis. But this was a very good movie. There was a couple of things in there that are kind of a goof. Like Rob Strasser was not 45 years old, but he was actually 37 in this movie. So
Mm.
if you look up the history, but I mean, it did take. I mean, like we've been talking about Dustin. It does take you back to a certain era. I mean, I remember
Yep.
growing up in that era, and I know you're a little bit younger than I am, but you still have a certain affinity for things of the 80s, especially during that particular era. I mean, you saw a guy at his desk at Nike with a Cabbage Patch doll, for crying out loud.
Yeah. And I had one growing up. There's certain things, and it does take you back. It's like, my sister and I, we have old VHS versions of shows that were taped off of TV, like Christmas specials and stuff for us to watch. And we were bummed when the VCRs that we had finally stopped working, because part of the fun of those was watching the old commercials. We would actually keep them. We would not fast forward through the commercials because we liked watching the old commercials. Nostalgia is very powerful. And I just have to get to one more note regarding the music of this movie. I have in big bold letters, because I'm a big believer of this. Time After Time always hits. I love that song. It's one of my favorite songs. People come at me on Twitter or social media if they want to. Cyndi Lauper, I don't always love everything she does, but Time After Time is going to get me all the time.
So we got more comments from Chris Dietz, Fifth Down Sports. Air is the movie of the year. I saw it in the theater opening weekend and have said it ever since. He also says Jason Bateman is the best character in the movie. I disagree. I think it was Dolores Jordan, played by Viola Davis. And he also says my favorite part was they told Ben Affleck to come in. They told Phil Knight to come in to the meeting late. That was awesome. It's like, yeah, that's pretty funny. That's pretty.
Yeah,
you come in 7 minutes late.
Yeah, and he was like, yes, but then he almost blew it too, because he came in and he was like going a mile a minute. And shouts to Affleck for having the cojones to put on that jogging suit in this movie, because I'm not sure that I would have.
Those leggings, my God.
Yeah.
Dude, there's such a thing as leg day, Ben Affleck, okay? God almighty. All right, we're going to take our first commercial break. When we come back, we're going to go into a debate. It's debate night at No Credentials Required. Stick around. We'll be right back just after this message. This episode of No Credentials Required is brought to you by Invader Coffee. For the coffee lover who wants good, quality coffee with no bullshit and no filler, Invader Coffee is an ultra-premium, veteran-owned coffee company proudly delivering only the best coffee your hard-earned money can buy. They aim to only serve the highest quality, organic, air-roasted coffee beans sourced from free trade farms all over the world. They keep things simple. The best coffee at an affordable price in order to provide you with the value you deserve for your morning boost. 100% fair trade, 100% organic coffee beans, 100% air roasted, 100% money back guarantee. Visit invadercoffee.com, enter promo code BELLYUP at checkout, and receive 15% off your order. That's right, folks. Invader Coffee, the best coffee your money can buy. I recommend it. It's a great coffee brand, veteran owned. You're the best. It's money back guarantee, folks. I mean, come on. You spend a little bit of your hard-earned cash for some great coffee. Support the show by visiting the link visiting our affiliate link in the description, whether you're watching on YouTube or if you're on the podcast site, and you save 15% with promo code BELLYUP at checkout. Dustin, I've been enjoying. I got to order some more, but I got to get more of that outsider blend, where you can be automatically entered to win a Chevrolet Chevette SS convertible, a real muscle car. So get yourself some Invader Coffee. Again, visit the link in the description. That's our affiliate link. You help the show by buying some coffee. You also save some money with 15% off with code BELLYUP at checkout.
Yeah, it's well worth it. I was drinking some Donut Dealer blend on our brunch episode. I just still enjoy it every time, and I got to re-up myself. Yeah,
I'm actually gonna get another pound of coffee plus some of those K-cups, because I typically, if I need a little bit of an afternoon boost on my days where I'm not at the gym, I'll get myself a Keurig and get myself a Keurig cup, a K-cup, pop it in, and of the original blend. I'm good to go for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
So again, Visit the link in the description. Get 15% off your order with promo code BELLYUP. Now, we're going to go into debate. It's debate time.
Ooh.
Which month is the best month for sports? And you can join in the comment section if you're watching live. Actually, Christy just chimed in. Who got it better, Phil Knight being Ben Affleck, or as the GM, or as
the
as
A's GM,
or Brad Pitt playing Billy Bean? I haven't seen Moneyball, so I can't make a comparison.
Yeah, you know what? The terrible thing is I've not seen Moneyball. Maybe we just
know what? Next week's episode, we do a movie review of Moneyball.
Yeah. If we go no ticket required again, and we do Moneyball, I think that's streaming. I think that's streaming somewhere. And if not, we'll just I'll pony up some cash for it. So
yeah. I think no ticket required is going to go through training camp too. From July into August until NFL season starts, unless we have a really big sports story that we can talk about. But with the dog days of summer, we have baseball going on again. I mentioned it at the top of the show. We have baseball going on, but neither of us are really. I mean, we pay attention to the Yankees, but we pay enough attention to baseball when there's something big going on that we pay attention to it. But this is more of a football show, and it's good to mix things up a little once in a while. So I think definitely next week, Dustin, I think we should definitely do another no ticket required. We'll watch Moneyball, and then we'll answer your question, Dietz. So
yes,
so I think it was definitely that's in the cards.
Yeah, put a pin in that one, and you all just witnessed a production meeting live on air. so thank you for that.
Yeah, not a problem. All right, it's debate time. Because I got warm up for tomorrow night. I'm making an appearance on the In or Out Sports Debate at 7:05 on Sartoba Media. My buddy Drew and I were going to do some sports debating, but I figure I'd get my chops in tonight and debate with Dustin. Mm-hmm. Which month is the best month for sports? Dustin, I'm going to have you lead off and tell me which month in your mind is the best month for sports.
Okay. All right. Now, I have to say this with a caveat. Now, if I end up picking the same month as you, this debate's going to be a short one.
Yeah.
But I will say, and this is going to give away my position immediately. I will say part of this may be weather-based for me, but I'm going to go out. I'm going to go out and I'm going to say that April/early May. I have to get that little caveat in there, is the best time of the year for sports, because people are going to say, well, you don't have the NFL. You don't have the NFL. It's true. But you know,
how do you know that?
But you know what is in April/May? The draft. And that to me is enough. I'm not a huge draft junkie, but I get pumped up around the time of the draft. Especially, you got to remember where I'm coming from. For a lot of years before this latest run, the Seahawks were not that great of a team, right? It was a big accomplishment if they finished like a little better than 8-8, and maybe they had a chance of getting into the playoffs. You know, some of the Mike Holmgren years, we started to get our feet under us a little bit, but then we don't talk about the Jim Mora Jr. time. That was not good. But the draft was always like, you know what? Maybe there'll be some great picks. Maybe there'll be, and I like hearing those little filtered reports about who might go where and the draft day trades that can happen. There's a lot of intrigue that surrounds the draft. Also, you have baseball, and they always say hope springs eternal. You have baseball starting up, and you have the NBA playoffs are starting at that point. The NBA playoffs, probably one of the longest playoff runs in sports, and then you also have the start of the push for the NHL playoffs, and possibly, I've said it before, NHL playoffs is some of the best best times in sports. So even if the playoffs haven't really started, you have teams fighting to get in. The NHL trade deadline was recent, so you're going to see how some of these new acquisitions are going to play with their teams. And lastly, after the doldrums of winter, the days are getting longer. Things are awakening. I know things have changed a little bit in upstate New York, at least to my memory, from when I was a little kid. But by late April, when I was younger, you could pretty much guarantee that you're going to have some pretty nice weather. It's not the case anymore right now, but still, the days get longer. And it just feels like everything is waking up, everything is coming to life. And a little bit, you also have some spring football. Is it my favorite? No, but is it enough if I feel like turning on football? You know, it'll satiate that thirst a little bit. That coupled with the draft can get me through. But to me, April is the best just because you got two playoff runs starting. You got baseball starting up. Every team is hopeful. And you don't really know even the baseball season. You don't really know which team is going to set itself away from the pack yet. And then every once in a while a team will start out scuffling, and you're like, oh, is this like for real? Is this team going to have some trouble this year? There's just a lot going on. But like I said, some of my points are due to the fact that that weather is improving and the days are getting longer. I have to cop to that because I get in a better mood when the days are longer.
Okay. Well, I was going to go in a similar direction as you. I was going to say April. However, I'm going to say the best month for sports is actually October. And I'll tell you why. I have several reasons.
Oh, I imagine.
First reason, NFL, it's in full swing. NFL's in full swing. We're coming up into the time of the year when we see the teams really start to separate themselves. We see the division winners start to really bump things up. We start to see which teams are going to probably be the draft, are going to have the high draft picks. We see the best performances. The best games are always in the late afternoons. And the time's getting shorter because it's fall. It's fall. That's what usually happens. Fall. We fall back. The time gets shorter. The days aren't as long as they used to be in the spring and the summer. But damn it, it's football season. And we covered football on this program for the majority of the NFL season. We did that. NFL's in full swing. College football is in full swing. I know, Dustin, you're not a big college football fan. I'm gonna have to find a guest before college football starts to help you get into college football and for you to decide who your team's going to be. My team happens to be Penn State. Yeah. And Penn State usually plays their biggest rivals, Ohio State and Michigan, in October. And those are the biggest games. So for me, it's NFL, it's college football, hockey. The NHL's just starting. Yeah. And Dustin, I'm a big hockey fan. I'm pretty much the hockey expert on this show.
You are.
By default. But the season starts anew. The Stanley Cup banner is raised by whoever team. This year it's going to be the Vegas Golden Knights. Congratulations to them. NBA season is starting for anybody who's a basketball fan. So again, same thing. Denver Nuggets will get their banner raised in, I believe it's mid-October. The NHL and the NBA kind of overlap with the starting times. I know the NHL usually starts around the beginning of the month, and the NBA starts around the middle of the month. So we get the new seasons of NBA, the NHL. Football's in full swing, both in college and in the NFL, and also it's playoff time in baseball. Playoff time in baseball. If you're a baseball fan, it's the most wonderful time of the year. I call April the most wonderful time of the year because that's the Stanley Cup playoffs. But if you're a baseball fan, and again, we are baseball fans on this program, not to the extent, not to a huge extent, but we'll cover it enough. But when playoff time comes around, now that we have the expanded format of 4 wildcard teams and 2 division winners moving on in their bye, it's fun. It's fun to watch. But playoff baseball is a heck of a lot of fun because you have the
Mhm.
three, the best of three in the first round, which is the wild card round. Then you have the division series, which is best of five. Then the then the league championship series and the World Series are both best of 7 games. And there have been look at the Phillies run last year. We mentioned it on Saturday. The
Yeah.
Phillies had a tremendous run. They ran through St. Louis. They ran through the Braves. And they ran through the Padres to get to the World Series last year. Nobody expected it. Nobody expected it at all. And they ran to Houston, which is normally a buzzsaw. They were a
Yeah.
buzzsaw last year, especially in the American League Division Series, and as we know as Yankee fans, the ALCS as well.
Yes.
But I mean, Dusty Baker, congratulations to you. You got your first World Series ring. It's a great time. It's a magical time of the year. It's a magical time because like, all four leagues are in swing in October.
Yeah.
Even though it's baseball playoffs, it's still you still are coming up to the last day of the season when playoff seeds are still some playoff seeds are still undecided. I mean, the Phillies weren't decided until the last weekend of the year last year.
Yeah.
So it could happen again this year with division races being what they are, especially the AL Central and the NL Central, which are both looking like the NFC South from last year. Who wants to win this? Who wants to win these divisions? We don't know. But it's pretty amazing that this year we could have 4 AL East teams in the playoffs, and 3 of those are wild card spots.
Yeah,
we've got a long way to go. We still have July, August, and September. We'll see which teams get hot late. But you're coming down to the wire all the way up to the playoffs, to the wild card. And unfortunately, we don't have the play-in games anymore like we used to if there's a tie. But it's just, I find October to be a great time. I love the fall. Fall's probably my favorite season.
Okay.
Next to summer.
Gotcha.
Summer.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's October. October is the best month for sports, in my opinion. My humble opinion. Again, some people are wrong, but like everything is. These kind of debates are subjective. We all have our opinions on which month is the best month for sports. Some will say August because that's when the baseball season heats up. NFL training camp gets going. July has the British Open. Dietz says in the chat that April is the best with opening day, March Madness,
and March
Masters.
Madness. Yeah,
he's also willing to be a part of this program to help you with the college football primary. And Chris Dietz is a wonderful college football commentator. He'll definitely help you out in that regard.
All right, yeah, sounds good.
Yeah,
but and let me.
He also jokes with us. Even though Dietz is a Mets fan, they wouldn't know what selling hot dogs in October is at Citi Field.
Ooh.
But he says Yankee fans is October. I'm shocked.
No, and I will.
Hot dogs taste better at Yankee Stadium in October. Dietz, don't forget that.
Spread hot dogs forever. But anyway, I
absolutely.
I will say either way that you're picking, there's not a losing pick in here.
There's never
and I will admit that me not having the NFL in my corner of April except for the draft is a big loss. But to me, some of the gains, and I was going to mention March Madness, but as not a big golfer or golf follower, I was remiss not to mention the Masters, but that goes along with my other theme of things are waking up, things are they're being reborn.
Yep.
And you feel, and it feels like a new beginning. And I will admit that a lot of it is weather based for me, because I think a lot of us, fall is my second favorite season next to summer. Summer's my favorite, but it is so fleeting. But I think a lot of us are just ready to come out of the doldrums of winter by the time April comes around. And I think sports helps us do that. But October, I will admit, there's almost no feeling like being able to flip. It seems like you have such an embarrassment of riches. You can flip around the channels and be like, oh, what do I want to watch? And the NFL season does get into full swing in October. But I would argue that being able to switch between the NBA playoffs, baseball, and the NHL playoffs is also a very strong argument for April. But there's no losing here.
No, there are no losers. And on that note, we're going to take our next commercial break. When we come back, we're going to play a fun game. So stick around for more No Credentials Required.
Spring has sprung, and our friends at Manscaped have the best tools for some spring cleaning. They've already helped you tidy up all the nooks and crannies of your body's basement. But this year, Manscaped can help you get the perfect presentation on that beautiful face with the new Beard Hedger Pro Kit. Make sure you look your best this spring by using code BELLY20 to get 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. So tame your mane with the Beard Hedger Pro Kit. The sun is peeking back out, which means you'll have to show your face in the daylight again. So use the kit to make sure your scruff looks award-winning, whether you have glorious beard flow or some smooth, sleek cheeks. Save 20% off and free shipping with the code BELLY20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code BELLY20 at manscaped.com. Focus on the face and use the Beard Hedger Pro Kit for the cleanest look in the game.
That's right, folks. Whether you get in the Beard Hedge Trimmer, which I proudly own, the Lawnmower 4.0, or the Weed Whacker Nose Trimmer, men, you need all three. Sometimes you need all three. But you could save 20% at checkout with the promo code BELLY20, and you get free shipping. So you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong with 20% off and free shipping.
Yeah, and look at this man's beard. You want it to look that well put together. Get yourself the Manscaped beard trimmer.
And I forgot to advise that the both Invader Coffee and Manscaped both get the No Credentials Required seal of approval. No, I will not make the noise. Look at that pup. It's cute.
We have that clip forever, though. We do.
We
have the memories.
So we're gonna play a new game that I decided to come up with at our off time. It's called Questions for Podcasters, and I have these cards. I'm a big fan of the Dr. John Deloney show. It's made a tremendous impact on my life. It's been one of the prime motivators to get me, to get myself, I would say mentally right. Dr. John Deloney. He's a big fan. I know, Dr. Deloney, you're a big fan of the show. I know you're watching right now. You're listening on your podcast side. But he's part of the Ramsey Solution team with Dave Ramsey. He is a brilliant guy, but he also speaks to a level that we can all identify with because he's a guy from Texas. He's very down to earth, and I love the advice that he gives and all the stories that he shares. At the end of each show, a couple times a week, he recites lyrics, and sometimes they're from metal bands, which I'm a closeted metalhead, so I appreciate that. Recently, he ended the show with Disturbed, which was pretty cool. So I got this pack of cards, and I sent Dustin a set as well for because I felt like it. There's his cards right there. There's my set of cards. This is the Questions for Humans Guys Night card set. It's on Ramsey Solutions website. Look for Questions for Humans. I got a bunch of these. So I got the regular pack, which is the Friends pack. I've also got the second edition Friends pack, which I have not opened yet. I've also got the Workplace edition in case someday I go to the office and I want to get to know my coworkers more. And just in case I happen to meet a lovely lady, I got the dating set. So
there you go.
I'm prepared.
Yeah,
I'm prepared. I'm getting to know people. I'm going to get to go to people on a deeper level. And so that means that Dustin and I are going to get to know ourselves on a deeper level on this podcast, and you're going to listen to it. And if you don't like it, tough beans. Sorry. Get your own podcast and you do your own thing. So I'm going to lead off here.
Okay.
I've already shuffled these cards, and I've got my card right here. So Dustin, your question is, and we're only going to do one. We'll probably do one per episode for the next couple episodes.
Okay.
So Dustin, So, Dustin, what was your favorite video game as a kid?
Oh, as a kid, here we go. This
This is
this
perfect for
comes-
you because you're a video game guy.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was a little nervous. I was like, I don't know what's coming. I don't know if I'm gonna have a good answer, but I got a great answer for this one.
All right.
The reason that I got so into video games, and if my sister was watching, she would be like, "Oh my God, I remember." My cousin Josh, who's older than me, significantly older, he used to play a game called Mike Tyson's Punch Out for the NES.
Yes.
I never played the arcade edition. I will admit I never played the arcade edition.
Which is just regular Punch Out.
Yes, but I will say too that we had the Mr. Dream version of Mike Tyson's Punch Out. So I didn't technically ever play against Mike Tyson. I was always trying to get to Mr. Dream. Spoilers, I never got there. But that game to me is the epitome. It started my fascination with video games, and it still is probably one of my favorite video games of all time, just because it's simple and it's all about timing, and the concept is easy to figure out, but it is not hard to master, but there's definitely, you've got to figure out timing. You've got to figure out different things for each boxer that you face. If I were to talk to people of my age and maybe a little older and a little younger, I could say, how do you beat Don Flamenco? And somebody's going to be able to tell me. When do you use a star punch against Bald Bull during his charge? It's a game.
How do you know when Piston Honda's going to punch you?
Yes, it's the eyebrows. Now,
the eyebrows.
Some of these characters do not age well. You have to realize that it's a different time. Okay. And
Glass Joe, the Kaiser,
yes.
Piston Honda, Don Flamenco.
Yeah.
Again, it's funny. I talked about this on Snowman in the Morning. Stereotypes exist for a reason.
Yes.
Sometimes for a bad reason, but they exist for a reason.
Yes. And
King
was
Hippo.
there now Al used to, my Uncle Al would tell me, "Oh, I played Punch Out." He goes, "Do you remember Pizza Pasta?" I'm like, "I do not remember Pizza Pasta." Pizza Pasta was from the arcade version, which I never played. But Soda Popinski kind of looked like my dad. That always messed with me too. But the game is just so deep. And also you could practice. It was one of the first games to my memory that it wasn't a save state, right? Because we didn't have the memory on the cartridges to be able to save the games. They weren't that sophisticated.
You had to wait until the next fight to take a pee break.
Yes, or you could pause the game and then just hope that you run back in, but you don't run too fast, because if you stop too quick, the Nintendo's going to reset. It was a whole thing. But
blow to the cartridge.
You could put in the passcode. You could put in the passcode and get to like Don Flamenco. You could kind of jump around the game a little bit. And also to watch somebody who was very proficient at Punch Out play it was a thing of beauty. My cousin Josh was very good at it. I wasn't as good. I got to be okay. I could get to a certain point in the game, but I never got sick of trying. And the testament to its craftsmanship is I believe it was 2020 or 2019. Somebody still found something about new in Punch Out that almost nobody knew, and that is, you watch the audience members. Now, there are certain ones where like the audience member will stand up, and that's supposed to be a signal of use a star punch now. But I forget what fight it was. It might have been in the Piston Honda 2 fight. But there's a fan that you watch, he blinks his eyes, and that's when you're supposed to throw a punch. Somebody found that in 2020, and it shows how deep this game was for the time. Also, shout out to Mario as the special guest referee.
I was going to say Mario was the guest referee.
Yeah. I love
this.
I love Punch Out. So Punch Out, my favorite game as a kid, still one of my favorite games today.
Yep. Yeah. it's a great answer. Super punch, Mike Tyson's Punch Out. I remember the commercials for it too.
Oh, see, I don't remember that many.
And you could never, even when you use a star punch, it was impossible to beat Mike Tyson because he was so. They made the creators of that game made Tyson so dang quick because he was so dang quick.
Yes.
In real life.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like unbelievably fast. The furthest I ever got in that game, and this was just when I was on an incredible run, I only got to this guy once. I got to Super Macho Man, and I thought he was fast. And I just couldn't get past him. I couldn't get to Tyson. But there's just so much depth in that game. And then also you could press select during the you remember the little scenes where Doc, your trainer, is trying to pump you up or whatever. There was a little cheat. You could press select, and if you did it, he would start patting your chest faster, and you'd get just a little bit of extra life at the beginning of the next round. You'd get your life bar would increase, but if you tried to do it too much, then he'd start patting you slower, and you'd lose some of your life, or I suppose stamina, in that game. Just a masterpiece of a game, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember back in the day when we had the NES, like our family would get really excited for whoever's playing to make an achievement. Like my brother Jim was one of the first to was the first in our family to get to the last level of Super Mario Brothers.
Oh, okay.
We figured out the trick where if you hit the shell enough, you can get one up and increase the number of lives you had. And we saw those funky characters when you were past a certain amount of lives, because I guess the system it was limited because it was 8-bit. It was limited to what it could do for how many lives you could have. So it would give you a character, it would give you a little character or icon instead of the actual number of lives that you had. So but I remember so distinctly about Jim, that Jim was the first of our family to get to the end of Super Mario Brothers. He didn't quite make it. He didn't quite beat the game. But I remember him getting there. I remember getting excited when Mike Tyson's Punch Out came out, and we got to Mike Tyson, and we absolutely just flailed. Not failed, but flailed.
It's tough. It's a real tough. And I will say, still one of the craziest things that I've ever seen. And I'm gonna out him because I think this is an accomplishment. I don't think he'd be angry with me. But there was an older kid that was friends with my best friend's older brother, and his name was John Keegan. And we were playing Punch Out one day, and John had his arm in a sling. And he's like, "Oh, I'm pretty good at Punch Out. I could probably get to Mike Tyson." And we're like, "John, your arm's in a sling." He's like, "I could do it. I could do it one-handed." And he got to Mike Tyson one-handed. Now, he didn't beat Mike Tyson, but he got there one-handed. It was one of the craziest things I've ever seen. He was really good at the game. So shout out to you, John Keegan, if you're watching, and you're still probably the biggest Jerry Rice fan I ever knew.
All right, I guess it's my turn then.
Yes. And with this card that I just drew, I would say that we should institute a rule, not because we're afraid to answer these questions, but we each get one veto. There might be something we don't feel like talking about. There might be something. So we'll each get one veto if the card hits a little too close for the airwaves. But the question I drew was, when was the last time you cried your eyes out?
Whew.
Yeah.
That's a great question.
Yeah, it is. And it's something that I think most men don't really talk about all that much. But
all right, I'll admit it.
Okay.
I'll fess up.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's actually back in. Actually, it's been kind of a year of weird things happening with me and my family too. I had my heart broken a couple of times by the same woman. That was something. My mom almost passing away, that was certainly really scary. So I've had quite a few episodes during my prayer times and during my quiet time where I'm bawling my eyes out because my heart was broken,
Yeah.
and that I wasn't sure if my mom was going to be with us. I mean, back in February, she's going to the hospital for a myriad of things, one of them being her heart. Couldn't figure out why her blood pressure was so low, or why, I mean, her pulse was fine, but her blood pressure was low. And we weren't sure what was going on. We weren't sure she was going to make it. And I remember sitting in talking to my siblings, and we all agreed what was going on with mom. But if this is the end, this is the end. And we were all in agreements with it. And then all of a sudden she got seen by a cardiac surgeon, and they said, "Oh, we can figure this out. She just needs a new valve. If we get her a new valve, or we put a balloon in, the blood flow," because what happened was that the blood flow going to her heart had reversed. So when it came to her aortic valve, the blood wasn't flowing correctly.
Oh, okay.
And it was actually, I wouldn't say spurting out like like a hose, but it wasn't going to the appropriate valve. So what they did was that they said, "All right, we're going to try this. We're going to go in, we're going to replace her. All right." So they said, "You have the option of either replacing the valve, or we put it in a balloon, we enlarge the valve, but you have to come in 3 to 6 months later and get it enlarged again." And my mom said, "Let's just get it over with." And as soon as that happened, her fortunes reversed.
Yeah.
And she, like, the swelling went down in her legs, the color of her skin, because not, in addition to the valve, the aortic stenosis, she also had cirrhosis of the liver. And because she has too much fat built up in her liver. That cleared up. And she went back to the rehab center where she was. She's home now. Thankfully, 4 weeks, she's about a month into being home. But as soon as the valve was replaced, things just started turning around.
Yeah.
And now I think she's going to be with us for a very long time.
Yeah. Let me just say, from an outside perspective, seeing your mom's bounce back is one of the more incredible stories. And I'm glad, obviously it's easy for me to say, but I'm so glad that it happened that way. And if she's watching, shout out to her for
I'm sure she is
one of the most incredible bounce backs that I only witnessed from a very outside perspective. But I remember you filling me in and stuff, and that's why when I drew this card, I said, well, I don't know if he's going to want to answer this. But yeah, it was something to see, that's for sure. And I'm glad she's doing very well now.
Yeah, she's doing a lot better. She's, like I said, she's back home. She's been home for about a month. She's getting physical therapy every other day. She's up and around, scooting around in her walker, and just loving life. And it's a miracle that this is the second time in her life in the last 10, 15 years that she's gone to the brink and she's come out of it.
Mm-hmm. And
it's just, she's the comeback kid.
Yeah.
In my mind.
As Conrad Thompson would say, she kicked out, she kicked out. Shout out to Conrad if you're watching.
Yeah, shout out to Conrad. We know you're watching, Hey, it's Conrad.
Yeah.
Hey, it's no credentials required.
But since you were so forthcoming answering that, I will also cop to that 2023 has also been, for me, somewhat of a I don't want to say a tumultuous year, but I've had a couple friends go through some issues, which I don't want to get into on here, but that's tough to witness. I am also struggling with a bit of some heartache and things like that. But I will say the last time I cried my eyes out was related to, it was very recent. It was related to to some of the stuff I'm going through right now, but mostly it's related to my dad. My dad, he is currently suffering from the early stages of Alzheimer's, and that's been tough to deal with, especially because you just know what the road ahead could potentially be, and it's not a good one. So that's the last time that something got to me, and I think we, not to get all deep on here, but we as men,
Power through it, Dust.
we as men, I think, need to be a little more open with our emotions, and open talking about it, because there's nothing wrong with it. Now, I will cop to it. I'm probably a little more emotional than some people are. I mean, I don't know what's going on with me, but ever since, like, I'd say there was probably a turning point when I turned like 37. I was watching A Football Life and I bawled my eyes out. Now, in my defense, that was right around the time it was recently after my mom passed away, and I'm like, oh, I gotta watch Football Life. I gotta chill out, and I turn it on, and it is the Pat Summerall episode. And they have, if you've ever seen it, they have that opening where John Madden, they show Pat Summerall's funeral, and they have John Madden, and he says the thing about, I said goodbye to you when I left NBC, and you came and you worked with me at Fox. And he said, and I said goodbye to you when you decided to step away. And he goes, this is your third goodbye, and this is the hardest. And he said, bye, Pat. And I lost it. I lost it. but ever since then, I'm watching, like, I'll be watching things on TV, and I'm just like, I was watching a documentary on Yokozuna not too long ago, and that thing got to me. I'm like, what is going on with me? So,
well, I will say this. Sometimes you feel like you're down for the count. I mean, the first 6 months of the year of 2023 have been definitely kind of rough emotionally, but we can only step back and let things hopefully be better from here. I mean, but we have to control. We can only control what we can control.
Yeah,
and that's what a very wise man once told me. My buddy Mike from City Mission, he's the executive director of City Mission. That's what he told me. He says, he told us in a sermon once. He says, you can only control what you can control. The score will take care of itself, and that's what my modus operandi is. And Dustin, I'm pretty sure that's what your modus operandi is.
Yeah,
going forward for 2023. So we got 6 months left in the year. We've made it through halfway through the year.
Oh yeah.
Try to make the best of the rest of the year. That's what I'm trying to do. That's what you're trying to do. Mm-hmm. And one of those things that helps us just get everything out is doing this podcast.
Yeah, being on the show for sure. It's been one thing to look forward to, and I still have. I'm looking forward to creating many more memories on here. But some of the standouts, I loved having Cole Johnson on for the Thanksgiving show. And I loved ranking the sides we had Cole on for the Super Bowl show.
Yep. And we had Jared too. And
yes,
Jared.
We had Jared on.
That was a great time. Well.
And we had, and I loved having Snowman on very recently. Snowman and I got to talking about Dave Niehaus. There's just a lot of. I loved having Wise El Jefe on. All the guests that we've had on have been great.
And many more coming down the pike.
Yeah, Brian Katie was a standout, but it's always nice. And then I do love the episodes where it's you and I, and we just get a chance to talk. And I can't thank you enough for, like I said, you do a lot of the work for this show. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you letting me just kind of show up and vomit in front of a mic for an hour each week. So
it's the vomitorium of podcasts. And we've got our title. We've got our episode title. All right, we're gonna wrap things up from here. So if you're watching on live or on the replay, don't forget to go to our social media channels, which are right down here on Twitter, Instagram, and the scarcely used TikTok. It's at NoCredsREQ. Facebook.com/NoCredsREQ. YouTube.com/@NoCredsREQ. We want to get to 500 subscribers so we can get monetized. So if you wouldn't mind, not only subscribe, but also if you're watching, you want to go ahead and smash that like button. Smash it responsibly. On the podcast side, subscribe on a myriad of podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Google Play, iHeartMedia, wherever you podcast. Also, rate and review. This many stars, 5 is preferred. And if you leave a review, we might even read it on the air. So, for my second chair, Dustin Henry, I'm Ryan McCarthy. You have been watching or listening to No Credentials Required, where you don't need a press pass to talk sports. And as always, we are presented by Belly Up Sports in association with Godzilla Media. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. We have actually one more comment from Dietz. He's going to say to us, he wants to warn us about Moneyball. He says, no, guys, don't torture yourselves. You're lucky not to watch the worst sports movie of all time. Well, guess what, Dietz? We're going to watch it anyway and review it next week.
Yeah, we might have to double down now.
So suck on that, mister. All right, we're out of here. We'll see you next Monday at the same time. Hopefully no technical difficulties then, but still, join us next week. We're going to have some more fun.
Good night, everybody.
Hey, everyone, it's Ryan.